Hi yogis, welcome back to Flow with Nicholas. This is our episode 2 of our beginner's breakdown. We're going to be touching on a warrior 1, 2, and 3. If you haven't yet watched the first episode where I go through the downward dog and the Vinyasa flow, as well as a halfway lift, I recommend watching that if you haven't already and you're a complete beginner. There's a little link in the video in the top corner. I'll pop that in there for you guys to check it out if you haven't already. Otherwise, if you're here for your Warrior 1, 2, and 3, you're in the right place. So we're going to start off with, so we're going to come to standing. Oh, also we're going to be using some blocks for our Warrior 3. We're going to do a little Warrior 3 prep. And then working our way into a full Warrior 3. So if you've got some blocks handy, we're going to be using those. I've got 2 here, but 1 will be sufficient enough. All right, so first we're going to find ourselves into a Warrior 1 stance. So we are basically, I've got my right foot forward and my right toes are pointing towards the front of the mat. We've got a little bend in that right leg. Ideally, we don't really want that right knee going past the right ankle. I'd say your max point that you want to be finding it at is where the knee is comfortably above your ankle. But, like I said, that's the max position. So it can be anywhere kind of, from more here to more above the ankle. With your back foot, I've got my back foot at a 45-degree angle. I like to kind of prompt people or students to offset your back foot from the front. So you're not perfectly aligning your front heel with the middle of your back foot. You can offset it a little bit more to the left, towards you guys, or to your left if you've got your right foot forward. And yeah, this will enable that left hip to kind of, rotate a little bit more, and you'll find maybe a little bit more comfort in that position. Your back foot also your back heel doesn't need to be fully situated on the mat. A more comfortable variation, depending on how your knees feel here, you can always lift up off that back heel. And you'll notice, obviously, that enables the hips to square more forward. And essentially, we're trying to find that same squaring of the hips when we've got the heel planted on the mat. So I'm going to take the variation where we've got the heel planted down. We're taking a relatively wide stance. You're feeling into how wide of a stance feels good for your inner thighs, your hips, and your body. We are focusing on squaring the hips forward, squaring the shoulders forward. You can bring your palms to center and extend your arms up and overhead. I quite like to also take a little pistol grip variation with the fingertips if you like, almost like you used to when you were maybe playing as a kid, if that was something you did. And yeah, so we can either take our gaze forward here, or we can maybe work our gaze up towards your fingertips, if that's something you want to work into. And then, of course, a little something more advanced, which, this is a beginner's class, but from there we can work into a back bend where we're reaching a little bit up and back, but maybe not doing that as of yet, right now, but just showing some kind of variations of the pose. So once again, we are bending that front leg, the back leg straight. We are squaring the hips forward, squaring the shoulders forward, and reaching through the arms, finding that length, and finding a focal point in front of you, or maybe up towards the fingertips. All right, so that is basically your Warrior 1. Keep practicing that. You can rewind the video if you need to. Next, we're going to come into a Warrior 2. So with our Warrior 2, quite a similar stance. Once again, that right foot is pointing forward, the right knee is bent. We're taking a relatively wide stance, but yeah, everybody is going to be different. So feeling into where a good standing point or stance point is for you. Quite important, we are aligning the front heel with the middle of the back foot, right? And our back leg is relatively straight. Doesn't necessarily have to be perfectly straight, but we are trying to work towards straightening that back leg. Front leg is bent. And then from there, we are lifting up through the arms, working the arms parallel to the floor. We are trying to center our shoulders with our hips. Sometimes I can see students, they maybe shifting a little bit off center, or maybe shifting a little bit back, which can feel awkward, or yeah, more so feel awkward than look awkward. It's not too much about how it looks, but we are finding that nice centered position with the shoulders above the hips and extending the arms out, and taking our gaze past our right fingertips and finding some length in the arms, almost reaching the hands or the fingertips forwards and back as you extend your arms forwards and back. Good. And this is pretty much our warrior two. Yeah, you can feel into, where's a good stance for you. Maybe it's moving that back foot a little bit more forward. Maybe it's bending that front knee a little bit less. And I think that is everything I needed to say for warrior two. Next, we're going to come into our warrior three. Now, we can incorporate our blocks here if you'd like to. I'm going to be grabbing two, but you can do this with one. We are basically going to be focusing on planting the right foot down, and we're trying to work into a balancing position on this right leg. So eventually we're going to be lifting this left leg up off the mat. You can have a little bend in your right knee or right leg as much as you need to. It does not have to be perfectly straight. From here, we're trying to find some length in the spine. We are lifting up through the chest. We ideally don't really want to be in this rounded position with the spine. We are trying to prepare ourselves for a warrior three pose, where we are essentially trying to get the spine parallel to the floor and that back leg parallel to the floor too. And then with practice, we can work maybe the hands off the block. Even if it's just for a second, we are trying to work into a balance. And then lastly, can you square that left hip? Maybe I'll put my hands back down into the warrior three prep to demonstrate. Often people can have that left hip opening up a little bit too much to the left, and our goal is to almost square the hips. And you'll notice that is creating more of a lengthening or stretching sensation in your right hamstring. All right, so let's get back into practicing that balance. Variation one, which is a little bit more beginner friendly, we can find this airplane warrior three variation with our arms down by our side, or we can find the palms to center in a more prayer variation. And then something more challenging is extending the arms up and over the head. And yeah, that is basically our warrior three. So giving that a practice, literally, even if you're coming off the hands for a second or two, you got to start somewhere, right? And maybe we are just here and we're coming back down. Focusing on those points that I initially said, focusing on getting the spine and the back leg parallel, bending that standing leg if you need to, lengthening through the top of the head. And, this is your starting point. And eventually we can work and practice into more of a balancing pose, into our full warrior three. All right. So yeah, these are all poses that we will incorporate into more of a flow. And yeah, I hope you found it helpful. It's been a pleasure. I'll catch you in the next one. We're going to go into some pyramids and some triangles and a few more basic standing poses. And yeah, with that, take it easy, guys. Catch you in the next one.